The House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please finish calling the roll.
Representatives Weissman, Williams,
Excused.
Wilson. Good morning. And Madam Speaker.
Here. With 60 present, 4 excused, and 1 vacant, we have a quorum. Representative Galindo. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the reading of the Journal of Monday, February 25th be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. No! Oh, sorry. Wow, even from the well. The motion passes. Announcements and introductions. Announcements and introductions. Representative Weissman. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if all the members of Judiciary are back yet after our little excursion, but I just wanted to go through today's calendar. We have 4 bills up for Judiciary. We will be hearing them in a slightly different order than they are printed. The bills are the same. The first bill up is 1158 by Rep. Lewis. The second bill up will be 1180 by Rep. Geithner, and then 1149 by Rep. Michelson-Jeannet, and I'm sorry, SB 49 by Michelson-Jeannet, and Senate Bill 71 by Rep. Roberts. So 130, room 112 as usual. Thank you.
Representative Michelson-Jeannet. No? Okay. Okay. Representative Wilson. Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a tribute that we would like to be read.
The House of Representatives convened in the 72nd General Assembly hereby recognizes February 26th of 2019 as Suicide Prevention Day. Suicide Prevention Day brings together passionate volunteers to advocate for state policy changes that will improve mental health and help prevent suicide throughout Colorado. Suicide is currently the 7th leading cause of death for Coloradans of all ages and the leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 19. There were 1,175 suicides in Colorado in 2017, and this number has continually increased since 2009. Furthermore, suicide is the 7th leading cause of death for Coloradans of all ages, and the leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 19. Colorado men of working age are most likely to die of suicide, while sadly women are more likely to attempt suicide. Many of Colorado's leading industries workers are at higher risk than others, including agriculture, construction, oil and gas, and first responders. Beyond that, rural and frontier counties tend to have higher rates of suicides than more heavily populated counties. The members of the Colorado House of Representatives recognize this silent health crisis, encourage citizens to get help when needed, and implore all Coloradans to play a role in preventing suicide, and we thank the volunteers of Suicide Prevention Day all across the state of Colorado. On request of Representatives Dylan Roberts, Daphna Michelson-Jeannet, Tom Sullivan, Carrie Tipper, Jim Wilson, given this 26th day of February 2019, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. We won't be long. We have a lot of work to do, but today is Suicide Prevention Day. You heard in the tribute that this really is a silent health crisis. We all know the stats. Colorado is above the nationwide average for suicides. Rural Colorado is above the statewide average for suicides. There's a lot we can do. There's a lot of different causes. There's a lot of different solutions, but there's going to be many members of suicide prevention organizations in the building today. I hope you get a minute to speak with them. And I just want to recognize a young woman who just this month, last year, took her own life tragically, 12 years old in Eagle County, Olivia Ortega.
Representative Michelson-Jeannet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members, for your attention to this issue. I have been down at this well talking about suicide since the day that I arrived. It is the #1 reason that I am here, is to stop suicide and specifically to stop youth suicide. As the leading cause of death for our children in Colorado, we should know clearly that we have an epidemic on our hands. We are third in the nation for suicide of youth aged 10 to 14. Third. Colorado should not be there. This is an incredible place to live. And if you feel hopeless or helpless, let me give you one suggestion. If you see someone who is struggling, ask them how they're doing, and then listen. Don't offer solutions, just listen. And if you think someone is at the end of their rope, the most important thing you can do is say, hey, are you thinking about suicide? And you can stop a suicide just like that. Because if they answer yes, your next response is, let's hop in the car and go for a drive. And let's just stop at the emergency department and let's calm down together. That's how we can stop suicides. We can stop them one by one. And there is so much legislation that we are working on bipartisan across the aisles to make sure people have access to affordable health care. And if we start asking the question in our physicals, right? We go for yearly physicals. Every yearly physical should include a basic mental health evaluation. How are you feeling? How is life going for you? Do you need extra help? Because if we start to treat mental and behavioral health care concerns the same way we treat physical health care concerns, we will start to turn the tide, and we will stop losing our firefighters, our police officers, our veterans, and our children. Please, let's work together to stop suicide.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, this isn't an issue that involves one side of the aisle or the other. It involves us all. And I appreciate Representative Michelson-Jeannet talking about intervening, but I want you to face the challenge that there's something wrong in our society if we have people who have no hope. Life is so special. We saw Representative Pelton put his grandson's picture up there. You saw my granddaughter's picture up there. How does it get to the point where the value of human life is so little and we feel like we don't matter that we have to commit suicide? It's a bigger picture than this legislature and passing a bill. We, as members of the human race, have got to address the issue that we do matter and our fellow human beings do matter. And there's something wrong with our society if we've gotten to the point where ending it is the answer.
Thank you, members. Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Wilson and I are chairs of the Behavioral Health Caucus, and this is just another friendly reminder that tomorrow, 12 to 1, in SCR 354, we will be having our monthly caucus meetings. As we all know, we need to raise the awareness of mental health and substance use disorders and have viable discussions about this issue. So please come tomorrow. Lunch will be provided. There will be a lot of experts speaking, and you will learn some new information, so we're hoping you can come.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just what Representative Buckner said. Please be there.
Thank you.
Representative Longtine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a reminder, the Health and Insurance Committee is meeting today upon adjournment, where we will hear Senate Bill 25. Thank you.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Education Committee will be meeting today, 12:01 and 1186. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
Any other announcements and introductions? Seeing none, the next order of business is third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1080.
House Bill 1080 by Representative Bockenfeld concerning benefits for first responders with a disability.
Mr. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1080 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the passage of House Bill 1080 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Cutter, Exum, Melton, Sandridge. Representative Cutter. Please close the machine. Representative Cutter, that's a $2 fine. Ouch! With 63 aye votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1080 is passed. Co-sponsors. Representative Coleman, we were actually thinking of starting to collect credit cards, but really the vendor fee was too high, so we just...
And the interchange fee.
And the interchange fee was just too much. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1052.
House Bill 1052, Representatives McCluskey and Rich, all Senators Rankin and Bridges, concerning the creation of special districts to provide early childhood development services.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1052 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1052 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Catlin and McKean. Please close the machine. With 50 aye votes, 13 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1052 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1172.
House Bill 1172, by Representative Weissman, all Senators Gardner and Cook, concerning an organization for recodification of Title 12 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, connection with limiting substantive changes to those that conform to similar provisions to achieve uniformity, eliminate redundancy, allow for the consolidation of common provisions, or that eliminate provisions that are archaic or obsolete.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1172 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1172 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Benavides and Geithner. Please close the machine. With 58 aye votes, 5 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1172 is passed. Co-sponsors. Yeah. Co-sponsors for the longest bill in history. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1170.
House Bill 1170 by Representatives Jackson and Weissman, all Senators Williams and Bridges, concerning increasing tenant protections relating to the residential warrant of habitability.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1170 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1170 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Herod, please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 23 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1170 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1119.
House Bill 1119 by Representatives Coleman, also Senator Foote, concerning public disclosure of a completed peace officer internal investigation file.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1119 on third reading and final passage.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the time. Folks, we had a little discussion on this yesterday, and here we are at thirds, and I'm here to ask you something interesting. So yesterday was a procedural issue with an amendment that Representative Roberts and I wanted to offer on this bill. And I don't know if everybody in here understands what happened in that procedural issue, but it's a good education moment no matter what. What happened in that was that we wanted to amend a few things in the bill. However, when we passed a strike below amendment, everything that we wanted to amend became a settled question. Does that make sense? So therefore, the bill was an amendment, and we can't amend that because we've already considered all those things. So I am here today to ask this bill to be referred back to seconds so we can have that discussion. So, Madam Speaker, I move that House Bill 119 is referred back to second reading.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I have had extensive conversations with the sponsors of the amendments from yesterday, and it is sort of a very rare circumstance that the committee report was a strike below, then we passed the committee report, and the amendments that they brought forward weren't able to be heard because of a settled question. So first, let me just say, if you have amendments that are coming up on bills on seconds, please get them into Marilyn before or right at the beginning of when a bill is being heard, because she can help you as a sponsor make sure that the committee doesn't move too fast that your amendments aren't going to be heard, because that's never our intent. I'm going to ask for a no on this procedural motion to go back to seconds due to the fact that we have a lot of stuff going on. But I have made a commitment to both of the sponsors of the amendments that I will work with the Senate to make sure that there is an appropriate hearing of these amendments, because we want to make sure that the ideas are brought forward And so I am committed to working with the sponsors in the other chamber, but I would ask for a no on this motion to send it back to seconds.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate that offer, I do. I really think that we need to take care of business in our own house. And so I really think that when we have a substantive discussion about what an amendment can or cannot do, then I think we ought to take care of it here, and we have that opportunity today. So I understand the dynamics here, but I also understand that I think this is a rare opportunity to take something back to seconds, have a discussion here in our chamber. I don't think it'll slow things down terribly, and I think that we take care of our own business before we send it off to the Senate and expect them to do it for us. So I would ask for an aye vote. Anybody who's, kind of fancy on this one, come on over. Water's fine, feels good. But seriously, I think this is a great opportunity to go back to seconds, to kind of have that experience of taking something back to seconds, dealing with this in a substantive way, and then moving on with it complete.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And, again, I would ask that we vote no on this. As the sponsors of the amendments, you got to make sure that you're bringing the amendments forward at the right time when we're in second reading. And I made a gesture yesterday while we were on the floor that, if the sponsors wanted to go down and talk about the amendments to make sure that the body knew what they were trying to do, which was, again, a gesture of recognizing that they didn't take the opportunity that was presented to them to move the amendments when they were in order, but that it's important that we had a discussion about them. And again, I'm committed to working with the sponsors in the other chamber, so I'd ask for a no vote.
The question before us is moving House Bill 1119 to second reading. Members, this is a recorded vote, so Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 21 aye votes, 42 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, the motion to refer 1119 to second reading fails. We are back to the underlying motion, which Majority Leader Garnett, did you move House Bill 1119? You did. So the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1119 on third reading and final passage. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Mr. Randall, Representative Valdez A is excused. He went to see the House doctor. Please close the machine. With 33 aye votes, 29 no votes, 2 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1119 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 24.
Senate Bill 24 by Senator Tate, House Representatives Arndt and Hooton, concerning the payment of taxes by electronic funds transfers.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 24 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 24 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 60 aye votes, 2 no votes, 2 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 24 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 70.
Senate Bill 70 by Senator Tate, House Representative Arndt, concerning an update to statutory language authorizing the Department of Natural Resources to receive donations to be credited to the Colorado Natural Resources Foundation Fund.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 70 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 70 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 58 aye votes, 5 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 70 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 80.
Senate Bill 80 by Senator Zinzinger, House Representative Arndt, concerning eliminating the authority of the State Board of Health to adopt rules establishing standards to ensure that certain entities are prepared for an emergency epidemic.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 80 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 80 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 0 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 80 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 82.
Senate Bill 82 by Senator Moreno, House Representative McKean, concerning clarification the State Board of Health has no authority over money allocated to the Department of Public Health and Environment.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 82 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 82 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 82 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 83.
Senate Bill 83 by Senator Zinzinger, House Representative McKean, concerning the repeal of obsolete provisions regarding air quality control in connection therewith eliminating the requirement that the State Board of Health supervise certain air quality control programs, removing statutory provisions relating to the Air Pollution Variance Board within the Air Quality Hearings Board.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 83 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 83 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 83 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. The next order of business is General Order second reading of bills. Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez. You've definitely heard the motion. Without objection, Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. The court rule is relaxed. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1069.
Seeing no objection, the committee will proceed with House Bill 1069. Oops. Mr. Randall, please read the title of the bill.
House Bill 1069 by Representative Jackson, All Senator Danielson, concerning the certification of sign language interpreters for the purpose of title protection.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is such an honor and a pleasure to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
I move House Bill 1069 in the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Appropriations Committee report, the Appropriations Committee appropriated some money for House Bill 1069. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. The question before us is, seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Appropriations Committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is an incredibly important bill. This legislation will really help people who need sign language interpreters to help them become better informed and therefore make better and sometimes, I got to tell you, life-altering decisions. We heard a lot of stories in committee. Things that happened in our healthcare system, things that happen when people go to parent-teacher conferences, things that happen when people appear before a judge. So under current law, the Colorado Consumer Protection Act requires all individuals working as a sign language interpreter in Colorado to be certified. Makes sense? However, the current law only recognizes certifications issued by the National Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. And so for several years, this registry hasn't been able to keep up. This bill seeks to solve the problem by allowing the Colorado Commission for the Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Deaf-Blind to be authorized to identify and implement additional certification programs that will be used to expand the number of certified sign language interpreters who are able to practice in the state of Colorado. This is a very important and necessary piece of legislation, and members, I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1069. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. House Bill 1069 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of, which one? Oh, 1025.
House Bill 1025 by Representatives Melton and Harrod concerning the timing of an inquiry into a job applicant's criminal history.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1025, the committee report on judiciary and the committee report on appropriations.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In appropriations, the committee assigned the $38,000 in cash funds to administer the changes that the bill proposes. With that, members, I would ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Appropriations Committee report passes. To the bill. Oh, I'm sorry. To the Judiciary report, Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
So, members, the Judiciary Committee took up an amendment that basically helps out our small businesses. It extends the effective date for small businesses so they have more opportunity to implement Ban the Box, get their applications in order. It was the outcome of a lot of stakeholder work, and I'm glad that the committee agreed to attach this to the bill. It is friendly, and so with that, I ask for the passage of the Judiciary Committee report.
Any further discussion? Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Folks, as you know, I tend to bring some of the conversation from our various committees to the well to have a little discussion. And part of the concern that I have with this bill, with what we did in committee and why I would speak to it at committee report is exactly this. We hear that this is going to be better for our small businesses, better for people who want to find employment. I would suggest that the opposite is likely true. That is that banning this question at a time when employers can have this conversation.
Representative McKean, we are on the committee report, Judiciary. Thank you. When we're on the bill.
I'm on Judiciary. This was our conversation in committee. You can speak to it now. So my challenge would be that when we have these kinds of issues where we say, you know, we're not going to allow the questioning, we're not going to allow this to come up, in committee, we actually had this discussion about what should we do about how employers can ask this question. So I would suggest that we vote no on the committee report. Mostly because we had this discussion, I didn't think it was resolved.
Seeing Representative Van Winkle, or sorry, Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't understand why there's so many ugly faces being shown to my colleague over here. This committee report amends the bill in at least 4 significant ways here. On page 4, line 27, page 5, line 8, line 9, and page 5, line 21. And so for him to get up and say vote no on the committee report is perfectly acceptable.
Representative Melton.
Oh, gosh. Thank you, Madam Chair. And it is an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Thank you. I guess I'm confused about the question about the committee report, because the committee report amends the bill to allow contractors to continue to ask on the application about a person's criminal background. So if we're saying that we don't, or I guess I'm confused, if the opposition is saying that they don't want to hinder employers from asking about the employment history on an application, it seems like they would be in favor of this amendment, because that's exactly what this amendment does in very small circumstances. There are certain employers who are restricted by state, local, and federal law from hiring someone with a particular criminal background. We have extended this out to their contractors who may also have contact with a vulnerable population or need to be under the same purview as those original employers. So I'm really confused by the opposition's argument regarding this committee report. And in fact, I believe that amendment passed out unanimously.
Representative McKean.
So I think that begs the question. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that begs the question is, You say for certain vulnerable populations, but I would say then that becomes this discussion that truly is germane to the committee report, which is if you're going to make one exception for contractors, then at what point do we say, well, this meets that standard, this meets that standard? I would say this is part of the entire analysis of why this doesn't make sense. Employers should be able to ask this question.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with all due respect to the Assistant Minority Leader, there are no ugly faces on this side of the aisle. But I will say that this is the results of a lot of negotiation. Small businesses asked for this amendment to implement this bill that they agreed was a good idea and the direction that we needed to be going in as a state. Additionally, it added some clarifying language around contractors. Again, this is what small businesses and contractors have asked for so they can actually implement this law in an effective way. I think that we can talk about the merits of the bill if we should choose to do that, but on this amendment, I asked for an aye vote. I ask that we respect the conversation that was had in committee with business leaders who all stood up and said that they are neutral on the bill, that they support these amendments, and that they want this bill to go forward. That I said that we want this bill to go forward and agree that this was the year that we should make this happen. I asked for an aye vote on the committee report and look forward to discussion on the bill.
Seeing no further, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd ask for a Rule 32D determination with respect to this motion.
I second that.
I'm just kidding. That's not a real motion. I'm just messing with you, Madam Chair. That's not a real motion. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, Representative Gray. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Judiciary Committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now that we're to the bill, we can actually discuss the conversation that was had in Judiciary. I will point out that, members, this bill really allows for people to have we say a second chance, but in so many circumstances, it's their first chance. It's their first chance because of the situation and the circumstances that they have faced, possibly growing up, possibly in their youth, and made a mistake. We want to give these people the opportunity that we actually have called on them to do, which is rehabilitate and become an active and a productive member of society. The way to do that is to make sure that they're employed. The way to do that is to make sure that they're able to meet their obligations and their responsibilities of paying their bills, of paying their child support, of paying restitution, and various things like that. And by allowing us to pass this bill, what we're doing is we're saying that you're able to go into an employer and the first impression isn't one of just negativity. It's one that shows what kind of skills you have, what kind of education you've gotten, what can you bring to this company or to this employer. We've put a number of guardrails in because we do have a number of industries that require a certain background and that an applicant can't have a certain criminal history. We have worked with and listened to the business community, and I think we're in a good place. And so with that, members, I would ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I want to remind folks that there are actually 1.8 million Coloradans listed on the criminal records database. 1.8 million. So when we say criminal history, it is a bit of a broad statement to say, do you have a criminal history? What does that even mean? How do you adequately interpret that? How do you accurately interpret that? And how do you ensure that you're putting your best foot forward on an application to an employer? That's one piece. I think the most important piece about this bill, though, is that we need to help Coloradans get back to work. We have people who have gone through our criminal justice system, those who have been rehabilitated, who have served the time for their crimes, who have gone through our prison workforce programming, who just want to get to work. Now, this version of the bill does not say that an employer cannot run a background check. In fact, they can. This bill doesn't say that an employer can't ask someone's criminal history. In fact, they can. What this bill says, though, is that you can't ask the question on the initial application unless it's completely germane to your job, as defined by statute at local, state, or federal level, or regulation. That's fair. We heard from many people in committee and some who are up here today watching this bill that banning the box allows them to have the dignity of telling their own story, speaking personally about what they did and why they are best for the job. An employer then has every right to decide how to move forward with that applicant. But what these employees want to do and prospective employees want to do is put their shoulders back, atone for what they did, and get back to work. That is what this bill will allow us to do. And finally, I will say that the leading reason that people recidivate, which means go back to jail, which means commit another crime and go back to jail, is not having a job and not having housing. So, the more we are able to get Coloradans back to work, the less likely they are to commit another crime. This bill is not only good for public safety, it's not only good for those applicants who want to work, but it's the right thing for Colorado. And I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the bill. So this brings this discussion really to a point. I hire people. I run a business that depends on other people to help me do my job. Therefore, I hire people. Therefore, I look at applications for people who want to work for me, and I have to make an analysis of what I see there. So let me take you through that process because I think it's important that we talk in real terms. And I will applaud the sponsors of this bill to say, absolutely. I always want to hire the best person for a job, and it doesn't matter what their background is because that interview, that process is my ability, my moment to have that conversation. Maybe it is that we just can't trust people to have this conversation in an honest way. I would tend to differ. But let me take you through this process. People apply. They give me a piece of paper on which are vital things about them, their name, their address, their phone number so I can contact them. And almost always, a job history and an experience, a history of experience that tells them they are the right person for my job. When there is a gap in that work experience, when there is a significant gap, especially as some of those who have been incarcerated, who have been out of the working environment for a period of time, a lot of times I have to set those off to the side because I have to take a look at what is the pertinent work experience of the people who are applying for my job. It doesn't mean that I'm saying because you have been incarcerated, I'm putting off to the side. I'm telling you from a business person's perspective, sometimes I have to set those off to the side so that I can focus on the ones where, you know what, I'm coming from this job and I've been doing this kind of work and I'm a drywaller or I'm a framer or whatever else, and here it is, here's what I've been doing. If, however, there is that box, if there is that moment to have that conversation, then that application does not get moved to the side. I can have that conversation right then. I can hear what it is that this person did so that I can say, you know what, I want to be the one to give you that chance. I want to be the one to employ you. I want to be the one to say that experience that you have had is applicable, and you know what, this gap of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years is okay. That is what I think that the state mandating we get rid of this box gets rid of, is that conversation. And I think it's pertinent when we talk about people who have run small businesses, hired people, fired people, had to go through trying to make sure that they do the best job they can for their customers with the best employees they can find. The fullness of that conversation is what generates that ability to have that trust, that loyalty. You want to find the most loyal employee you will ever find in your life? You find that employee that you gave that chance to, and you said, you know what, by God, we're going to do this together. I urge a no vote on this bill because I think what you're doing is you're killing that conversation. You're killing that ability to have that fullness of that conversation right up front. Because you know what? There is some degree of winnowing that we all have to do as people apply for jobs. And to hear that we need to put Colorado back to work, Colorado is back to work, folks. This is some of the lowest unemployment we've ever seen. And so when we get down to how do I select the very best person for this job, people who might want to move into a new position, but also people that I want to give that chance to, give me the information I need. Vote no on this bill.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also rise in support of the bill. I voted for it in committee, and I just want to explain some of the things that we learned in committee. But in preface, before that, I would like to say why I was inspired to go in this direction. It was a couple of years ago I was listening to the head of Koch Industries talk about how they employ former felons, and that they've actually found former felons to be better workers in Koch Industries than some of their Ivy League employers that have stellar resumes. And just as he continued, heard from different industries who talked about how someone who has paid their debt to society and they've come out, they're desperate for a job. And they're also very much inclined to keep that job, because the one thing that we do know that contributes to recidivism, it's lack of a job, lack of stable income coming in. Now, I'd like to address some of what my judiciary colleague, Representative McKean, talked about. He talked about a gap in work history and that he would put that application aside. I'm going to counter that that's the exception and not the general rule. Why we need this bill is because of electronic applications. Before an employer ever sees the application, there's an algorithm. And within that algorithm, if you check the box that says, yes, I have a criminal past, your application will be kicked out of the queue. And you will never, ever get a chance to even have your employer evaluate if you had a gap in your work history. And that's why I support this, is because of modern technology. We're not living in the 20th century anymore. We're clearly in the 21st century. Colorado would be the 11th state to, quote unquote, ban the box when this passes. Last year, Colorado did what this bill does, only for public sector employees who work for the state government of Colorado. I was also impressed that within committee we heard from business leaders from the National Federation of Independent Businesses who traditionally have opposed this bill in the past. They liked where the current content is. We also heard from the Colorado Association of Commerce and Industry, who have recently renamed themselves the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, that they too liked where this bill has gotten. And I'll tell you, and the Colorado Competitive Council was the other one. The reason why these business groups like where this bill is the only thing that it really does at the end of the day is prevents the initial checking of the box. On a subsequent application, an employer can still ask, do you have a criminal past? In an interview, the employer can still ask, do you have a criminal past? At any point in the application process, the employer can do a background check and see what all is on the person's background. I'd now like to pivot slightly and talk to you about the confusion that the box has for applicants. Last night I had the opportunity to talk to students at Colorado Mesa University who were over here visiting us at the Capitol. And we talked about this very bill because I told them I'd be debating it today on the House floor. And they said, what qualifies as a criminal past? Does a speeding ticket qualify? Does a parking ticket qualify? Does any sort of a summons to appear in court qualify? What actually qualifies? And I told them that's half the problem. We don't actually know. Because when someone asks the question and you check the box, well, quite frankly, if I believe that my criminal past, which is a speeding ticket, qualifies, and I'm a very honest person, I would still check that. My application would be kicked out. I would remain a very honest person with lots of integrity, but I would never, ever get my application in front of the employer. Whereas someone else might look at the same box and say, well, it only applies to felonies, because in their mind, that's what a criminal past applies to. And I think this bill eliminates that confusion. So I rise in support and would encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I've actually voted against a previous version of this bill in my time at the legislature back in 2017. I had a lot of the same concerns that you've heard about this bill, but a lot's happened since then. The bill sponsors have done exactly what we ask everybody in this building to do on a regular basis, which is to engage with people who say that they disagree and try to find common ground. And you found that common ground here. The same, or many, and if not close to all of the same organizations that before expressed concern about policies like this are now saying that they're happy to work with the sponsors and they're happy for the conclusion that we've reached. And it is an area where we need to give those business organizations credit, because it is we as the state who creates the stigma we are trying to overcome here. It's not, the business community doesn't give anybody a criminal record. We're the ones who give people criminal records. We're the ones who put the stigma on them as government. And what we're asking for the business community to do is to come to the table and partner with us in trying to find ways to help mitigate that, while also obviously we have a lot of other efforts going on to address the stigma in the first place. But the answer this year has been yes. Let's sit down, let's work together to address these concerns, to help employers, to help employees, and to help mitigate the lifetime effects you see of criminal convictions. I applaud the sponsors for the work that they've done. I've applauded the business community to come from the table. And sometimes in this building, it's okay to just take yes for an answer. When everybody says, yeah, okay, yes, sometimes it's okay to just take yes for an answer and move forward with a good piece of policy that a lot of people have worked pretty hard on. So I urge your support for the bill.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on this bill, when I first read it, it brings up kind of an issue in society. Whenever we, especially with the word criminal, crime history, it's such a broad term. It can mean everything from, and you know, I get concerned about what people envision when you say crime and crime history. Do they envision a serial killer that they discussed, that they saw a movie on TV? Or do they envision the young person who made a mistake and is trying to live past it? We do in society arrest a lot of people, and then we tell them after they get out of jail, you better get a job. Now, I'm here to protect society against the people who rape and murder and commit major violent crimes. But I don't know if we're really discussing those people right now. What I'm concerned is about the 18-year-old kid who sees a movie and thinks possessing a narcotic is kind of cool, gets caught up in it, and gets caught. And then his record is ruined forever. And then we're telling him, get a job. You know, I've hired a lot of people, and if you start judging a lot of people over their history, you're not going to hire too many people, and you're going to lose a lot of decent people. I think as a society, we make judgments on, are you your worst mistake? You know I'm not my worst mistake. I mean, I think some of my worst mistakes, I was 18 years old, 19 years old, and I'm not that person now. So with that said, I think there should be some guidelines, and I know this bill addresses it. We don't want people with history of touching children, working at some place that provides babysitting. We want people who has a history of financial issues or financial crimes working at a bank. So this is a problem that needs to be dealt with. And we always say, get a job, get a job, get a job. But gosh, when you have a record, man, those doors are slammed. And it's difficult, especially and also, like we discussed how great the economy is. Well, the economy means there's a lot of great, as an employer right now, there's a lot of great people to select from. And somebody with a record just can't compete. Now, if in these types of situations. But we keep on asking them, get a job, get a job, get a job. So on the grounds of, I do really like what this bill is focusing on. I really like it. We need to stop labeling people who have minor crimes. We need to stop restricting them. We need to stop judging people on a mistake when they're young. I'm sure everybody in this room has never made a mistake. And I think we hope that we never get judged on our mistakes. But with that said, I know the people in my district do not want the government involved in limiting information to employers. This is when you have an employer and a possible employee, it's a private transaction. That's a private relationship. And they don't want the government getting involved. So with that said, today, I won't be able to support this bill. But with that said, this is an issue that needs to be solved. And the purpose of this bill needs to keep in light, needs to keep, this is something we as a society need to deal with. And if this bill passes or doesn't pass, the topic of this bill needs to move forward, and it needs to get a lot of focus from this body. Thank you.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L008 and ask that it be properly displayed. So I will start.
Hold on, one moment.
Thank you. My apologies.
I got it.
All right, the amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll begin with apologies to the sponsors that this only occurred to me just moments ago. I did not have opportunity to discuss with the sponsors of the bill. But I hope that this is received as a friendly amendment. What this does is it removes the exemption from government for complying with this bill. So all those restrictions on initial requests for any law enforcement activity in someone's background would apply not just to private industry, but would apply to state and local governments as well. So it removes, employer does not include the state, a local government, or a quasi-governmental entity or political subdivision of the state. So to quote my esteemed colleague from Broomfield, let's step up, state of Colorado, and I think and let's not give an exemption to the state or other governments if we really believe that this is a good idea for potential employees. So I ask move on this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To my colleague from Douglas County, I appreciate this amendment. And this has come up. I think there's a little bit of confusion about why there is a state exemption. So I want to explain why. There is a state exemption in this bill because the state already has Ban the Box. The state's version of Ban the Box is much more expansive than what we have in this bill. And so what we didn't want to do is to create the exact same standard for the state and for private business, because that wasn't something that industry really wanted, but it also wasn't the right direction for this bill. But for the state as an employer, we already have Ban the Box, we passed it. It's way more expansive, and we wanted the private Ban the Box to look a little differently, to respect some of the wishes of the employers to gather the information as appropriate and just have it on the initial application, not wait further down the line. So I asked for a no vote on this amendment. I think we're getting to the same place, though. I think we are at the same place, and I respect my colleague for bringing this forward.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question to the sponsor then. If this would merely be a subset of the more expansive restrictions on the state, would removing it still not get us where we want to go and not give an exemption to the state, which I think sends the wrong message that we're going to restrict private industry and exempt ourselves as a state government? Would it, if it sounds like from the explanation that you gave that this would not have an effect, so I would love for it to remain. I would love for us to pass this amendment and remove those words so that there does not have the appearance of exemption from any restrictions given on employers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it just creates a conflict in statute. So if you actually look at statute and see where we have Ban the Box for state employment, it would create a conflict there, and we don't want to do that. So, you know, after talking with the people who carried this bill before, talking to the bill drafters, it needed to be clear that there was a separate standard for the state, and that is in statute. And if you'd like me to pull that reference, happy to try to find that quickly for you. And I know I have a colleague, the Judiciary Chair, who I'm sure can find that even quicker.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll just add that we are actually requiring a higher standard for the state than we are on private industry. So with private industry, with this bill, we're saying that you just can't ask on the application, but you can do a background check anytime during the applicant process. You can ask about a person's criminal background or history anytime during the application process. With the state, we don't actually have that level, or we actually have higher standards in statute with the state. So with the state, you can't, I believe, do a background check anytime during the application process. It has to be done when an offer is being ready to be made. That's actually what original Ban the Box legislation is. This is a very negotiated Colorado version of Ban the Box, one that we listened to the business community, we listened to the private sector, and we heard their concerns about what restrictions or what things that they needed to have in terms of having a conversation about employment. Really, members, this is just getting down to that initial introduction between an applicant and an employer. It's just saying on their application, whether that be an electronic application or a paper application, you can't ask, do you have a criminal background? So that way, when you're looking at their skills, when you're looking at their experience, and when you're looking at their education, something negative is not thrown into the mix. And so, again, members, we have different standards for this, given that we're comparing public sector to private sector. I would ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L008. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Amendment L008 fails. To the bill. Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I really do sympathize with let's give people a second chance. Folks that are convicted of crimes and actually pay their debt to society should be given a second chance, without a doubt. I know I've made some dumb mistakes in the past too, and like Representative Sandridge said, I wouldn't want to be defined by my worst mistake. I think this bill doesn't do that. Instead, it tries to correct this by forcing the government on private businesses to change a private business's behavior in order to give that second chance. I think a better solution that's not in this bill and isn't what this bill does is actually looking at expungement after a certain period of time for nonviolent, non-sexual crimes. I think that would be a better route that we could actually give people a true second chance, give them a clean slate to work from so they could actually redeem themselves and be successful members of society. I think that would be a much better approach than forcing private businesses to not do something that they may want to do in their hiring practices. I think businesses should be able to ask this question up front and then make an educated decision themselves whether or not they want to continue to pursue hiring this person. They might be very pleasantly surprised. But this is the wrong direction. This is more government control over private behavior rather than true expungement and giving someone a true second chance. This just is more government control into the private businesses. I think it's going to lead to further litigation. Further litigation, what do we know about that? That's going to increase the cost for businesses. It's going to increase compliance costs for businesses. And when we do this, it adds to the drip, drip, drip of the affordability crisis that we have in Colorado, and is going to continue to make Colorado less and less affordable. So although I appreciate the intent of this, I think this is the wrong direction to take. And I think we should look at a different direction to truly accomplish what the sponsors of this bill are intending to do.
Seeing no, Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to the minority leader, I will take you up and work with you on that bill. I think that is a good bill for Colorado, and I look forward to working with you on that. There's that bipartisan spirit here. It's a Colorado way. Of course we should be expunging these records. Of course your criminal history should not follow you. Members, though, are we then going to say it's okay to just lie on your application and pretend like it didn't happen? Because if we have that box, even if we have expungement, people will then be lying. Let's not create a conflict in statutes. Let's not create a conflict in the direction that we all agree that we should be going in, which is getting these things off of people's records, because we are not our worst mistake. We are so much more than that. Coloradans deserve the chance to get back to work. They deserve the chance to tell their own stories with their own voices. They deserve the chance to be honest, to accept what they've done and move forward. I look forward to working with the minority leader on that bill. Today I ask you for a yes on this bill.
Representative Beck, or Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I wouldn't say these people would be lying. They could actually do the opposite and still be honest on their application. And then the business owner could actually do the background check and say, wow, I don't see anything, but this person's integrity is so impeccable, they actually told the truth. Wow, maybe I should actually proceed with more interviews and get to know this person better. It would actually give more of an opportunity for those business owners and those employees seeking the jobs to converse and actually decide what's best for them, instead of a big government approach that decides to tell Coloradans how to act in their private businesses and their private functions, that again is going to lead to further litigation, further compliance costs for businesses, and is going to increase the cost of living in Colorado. That's not the right approach.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L009 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
What this amendment does is actually it points out some specific crimes. I agree with the sponsors that Coloradoans deserve the chance to get back to work, but I think that there is a need to make sure that certain crimes that our crimes against persons actually still remain on that first checkoff. And those would be murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree, manslaughter, first degree kidnapping, enticement of a child, of course, sexual assault of a child, sexual assault of a child by one in position and trust, just things that are very violent. I think that all crimes are not created equal. You know, a DUI or, you know, small crimes or even some felonies are not that important, but to protect the community and to protect employers, I think it would be good to look at offenses against the person. We actually have a history of doing this with the landlord bill, and I know I shouldn't talk about other bills, but this might be a safeguard that would be very important for employers to have on the check the box. And I know that the sponsors actually did try to say the law prohibits a person who has a particular criminal history from being employed in a particular job, but it doesn't identify crimes that must be checked off at the very beginning. And I think that that would tighten up this bill and make it better, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Representative Soper.
I'll go ahead and argue the counterpoint because it's fun to argue. It is. An employer under this bill, and actually right now, can pull a background check at any point in the application process or even before the application process is started. So this actually would be redundant. I definitely appreciate where this is coming from, just because we had this discussion in committee, and I know one witness who testified said, well what happens if someone who I hire had a very violent criminal past? Well, by the time you get to that, I mean, if you're really serious about this position, chances are you would have done a criminal background check before actually making the job offer to the individual, especially if you believed that knowing that information was critical to employment. And so you would actually know whether or not this person did have the violent past that you believed in. The other discussion that we had that I think is really pertinent to this amendment and to the bill as a whole is someone asked, well, what happens if on my construction site I hire a worker who had a very violent past and they come to the workplace and assault everyone? Well, the counter argument is, what happens if someone who has no criminal past at that point in time wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, shows up to work and assaults everyone? There's no nexus there to say that because you have committed an offense in your past to say that you'll commit it in the future. I will say there is a bit of irony, and it's one thing that I learned in law school. More likely than not, you would be prevented from being a lawyer if you've murdered someone, but yet there's actually no evidence to suggest that the crime would in no way, shape, or means affect your performance as a lawyer. And I think that it's always really important to look at what types of crimes are being caught up here. I mean, if I'm hiring someone to be a teller at a banker, I don't want someone who has a history of fraud, for example. But someone who had a DUI, by contrast, is probably fine to be a teller. So that's why it's really important before you actually hire someone, go ahead and do the background check. Thank you.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, and I urge a yes vote on this amendment. As we talked about earlier, I don't think all crimes are created equal, and I would even think that we should look at expungement of nonviolent crimes. This speaks directly to some of the most heinous crimes that exist in Colorado. We're talking sexual assault on children, pedophilia, murder, things of that nature. I mean, some serious, serious stuff. And I don't think we should be telling businesses that they're not even allowed to ask or inquire about crimes of this nature. This is serious stuff. So I think I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I ask for a no vote on this amendment. I'll just remind you that nothing in this bill restricts an employer from asking a question of any applicant. They could ask, do you have a criminal history? They can ask, have you murdered someone? They can ask, why have you not worked for 20 years because you've been in the penitentiary? They can ask those questions. It also states that they can run a background check at any time for an employer. And so in agreement with my colleague, the good representative from Mesa County, I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L009. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Amendment L009 fails. To the bill. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passing of House Bill 1025. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. House Bill 1025 passes. What? Mr. Randall, please read the Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 43 one day.
Sorry. The bill will be laid over as requested by the Assistant Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, please read the Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order to Senate Bill 69.
Seeing no objections, the committee will proceed with Senate Bill 69. Mr. Randall, please read the bill title.
Senate Bill 69 by Senator Lundin, House Representatives Wilson and Bonteo, concerning non-public schools' authority to operate certain teacher development programs.
Thank you. Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 1969 on second reading. There is no committee report.
To the bill. Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, this is, and I realize you run the risk of raining down fire and brimstone on your head when you say it's a simple bill, but this really is a simple bill. This one is simply to allow the private schools to be able to do the same thing that the public school and all charter schools have been able to do. Actually, charter schools were added in the last session. And this is to address the alternative licensure programs for teachers and principals who do not hold professional licenses. It allows for mobility between the two groups, that a non-public school can go ahead and get their alternative licensure and be able to move to the public sector and vice versa. It's a good bill and we ask for your support.
Representative Buenteo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And it's an honor to serve with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I am here and living dangerously by rising in support and also proclaiming this to be a very simple bill. This essentially codifies induction programs in private schools. As you guys know, I am a special education teacher myself, and when I was starting my career, I could not overstate the value of the induction program that I went through as a brand new teacher. It is vital to, frankly, the education crisis here in the state of Colorado, that our new teachers feel supported, that our new teachers have that professional development, and frankly, that relationship with veteran teachers and administration if they are to successfully begin their teaching careers. So I rise in support and ask for your aye vote. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 69. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 69 passes. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order for Senate Bill 44.
Seeing no objections, the committee will proceed with, where are we at? With Senate Bill 44, sorry. Mr. Randall, please read the bill title.
Senate Bill 44 by Senator Zenzinger, House Representative Hooten, concerning the statewide emergency medical and trauma care system in the Department of Public Health and Environment in connection therewith, eliminating the requirement that the State Board of Health will cooperate with the Department of Personnel in adopting certain criteria.
Representative Houghton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is a statutory revision committee bill. And in a nutshell, the role of the Department of Personnel in participating in the development of the emergency trauma care system was fulfilled in 1997, and their reference in statute to this effort is now considered obsolete. I urge an aye vote.
Oh. Representative Hooton.
I move Senate Bill 44.
Thank you.
And urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative. Is there any further discussion on the passage of Senate Bill 44? Seeing none. The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 44. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 44 passes. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order for Senate Bill 81.
Seeing no objections, the committee will proceed with Senate Bill 81. Mr. Randall, please read the title of the bill.
Senate Bill 81 by Senators Zinzinger, Representative Hooton, concerning the repeal of the Colorado Cancer Drug Repository Act.
Representative Hooton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, another statutory revision committee bill. In 2005, the Colorado Cancer Drug Repository Act led the way in allowing patients to donate unused cancer drugs to uninsured and underinsured patients in Colorado. Through two amendments, one in 2007 and the other in 2012, Colorado put into statute a broad drug repository for all types of unused medications, including cancer drugs, hence the request for the repeal of the act.
Representative, would you like to move the bill?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 81 and ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 81. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 81 passes. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report. Okay, what do I do?
House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee of the whole begs leave to report is under consideration the following tax bills, being the second reading of their recommendations thereon. House Bill 1025 is amended. House Bill 1069 is amended. Passed second gross place counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 44, Senate Bill 69, Senate Bill 81 passed second revised place counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 43 is laid over until February 27, 2019, retaining its place on the calendar.
Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez. You have heard the motion. There's one amendment at the desk. Mr. Randall, please read the Beckman amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Beckman moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Beckman Amendment L009 to House Bill 1025 to show the said amendment passed. The House Bill 1025 is amended passed.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Beckman Amendment to the Committee of the Whole. What I was trying to do with this amendment is to continue to allow disclosure in the first application for offenses against the person. The most violent crimes that we have in statute, which would be murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree, manslaughter, second-degree kidnapping, and the list goes on and on. Let's face it, all crimes are not the same. And for the safety of the community, it would be very important to have this still be required and check the box. I agree that we should try to get people back to work, but all crimes are not the same. A DUI or a petty drug offense cannot be put in the same category as first-degree kidnapping, second-degree kidnapping, assault, murder of a police officer or a firefighter. Those are very different crimes, and I would ask for public safety that we vote yes on this amendment.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I ask for a no on this amendment, members. Members, this actually is going to create a much longer application for the small businesses, which means they're going to be paying double the cost to get job applications into the field. So are we saying we're going to list everything that's in that statute on a job application? That creates a lot of ambiguity, a lot of confusion for our small businesses. Or are we going to just reference a statute? How many Coloradans have statute books where they're going to look up exactly what crime is which? Members, the bill already says you can get a criminal background check at any time. The bill does not exempt. So I'm saying, maybe there's something in that statute, but what about some of the other statutes that you might want to inquire about? What about things like, well, of course we can talk about things like sexual assault. Those are things that people can still inquire about. They can still get a criminal history, run a criminal background check, and they can still ask the employee, a prospective employee. And so for the sake of our small businesses and for the implementation of this bill, I'm going to ask for a no vote. Let's support our small businesses today, Colorado. Thank you.
Is there any Representative Beckman?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think for the small businesses, the box would say offenses against the person. A crime, a violent crime against a person would be. Okay, well, I'm confused. Come on up. Oh, okay. Anyway, what I would like to know is violent crimes, murder, assault, sexual assault on a child. I think those are things that still need to be known. I know a lot of small businesses will get hundreds and hundreds of applications, and this would be something that would be good to know. Sometimes people are actually hired before the background check gets back. I think for safety of the community, this is really important to give the small businesses the opportunity to have this identified. This isn't a minor drug offense or something minor. This is a pretty strong crime when you're assaulting, murder, sexual assault on a child, kidnapping, and the list goes on and on. So I would ask for an aye vote for protection of small businesses. I don't think this would be too bureaucratic, and I think that it would be really good for safety for the community.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, just so you know, that the way the criminal code works and the way criminal law works in the state, there are definitely some very serious offenses listed in those sections. They do not constitute everything that would consider a crime against persons within the state. It's actually really complicated, all the crimes against persons, because not all of them are in our state law. Some are done at the municipal level, and some would not be contained within this area. So all the other points said for and against this amendment, you know, you can understand that there would not be a way to simplify this description of saying that's a crime against persons, because there are many persons crimes that aren't listed in those provisions right there.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is permissive to allow a business to ask this. We just got up and we heard basically that businesses wouldn't be smart enough to be able to figure out a way to craft this on their application. I disagree. This doesn't require them to do it. They can. It's permissive. Another thing that they're allowed to ask. These are some of the most worst, heinous crimes that we see in our state. The least we can do is allow a business to screen their applicants for these, quite frankly, nasty crimes. I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Is Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And again, members, we have gone through intense negotiations with the small business community. The one thing we wanted to make sure was that the applications were accurate, that we don't cause a reason for things like lawsuit or claims. And so this is hugely problematic, and that it is confusing. Even the sponsor of this amendment wasn't sure exactly how to describe what this amendment would look like on an application. But again, I remind you, members, that you can ask at any time. This is a very moderate version of ban the box. You can say, have you committed any of these crimes? You can run a background check. You can get that background check. You can even make employment decisions based on people's answers to those questions. We didn't go so far as to say that you couldn't. And so, members, this is already in the bill. There's an exclusion in the bill that says that you can get that background at any time. It's very clear. We wanted to make sure that that was in the measure. And so while I appreciate the spirit of this measure, just think about how you're going to interpret this. The sponsor didn't know how it would be written in the application. Happy to have a conversation with small businesses about this, and if it's something that we want to talk about as it moves to the next chamber, it is something we can talk about. But right now, especially because there's so much confusion today, I ask for a no vote and also ask that we respect the wishes of the folks who have lobbied this bill on behalf of small businesses to say that this is where the bill needs to be. They need that, and they are okay with this bill moving forward. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Representative Beckman. And members, just to clarify, when we're on third reading, the mover of the motion can speak more than 2 times for a total of 10 minutes. Everyone else can only speak 2 times for a total of 10 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would ask for a yes vote. And there was some confusion because when you're up here speaking and people are interrupting, there's some confusion. I have a call into the bill drafter. A lot of times we don't understand the operational how to do of the bills, and so that was the confusion. But I will say that this entire bill, with or without this amendment, is going to be very difficult for small businesses to implement because they are going to have to background check all of their applications. What I was trying to do with this is to streamline it for those businesses to identify those that had committed really violent crimes. Sexual assault on a child, multiple sexual assaults on a child, murder, multiple murders, to filter those out even before they start the application process. When you have hundreds and hundreds of applications coming in and having to do background checks, the amount of cost that this is going to cost businesses, especially if they are businesses that have children in and out all the time, or are healthcare providers that send people out to do homemaker services with those most vulnerable in our communities. There has to be a little bit of common sense here. This is just the most violent crimes Employers deserve to know that from the get-go. I would ask for a yes on this amendment.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, we've heard from NFIB on this, who's neutral on the bill. So to say that this will hurt small businesses is not true. We've heard from small businesses, and they're saying we can not only work well within this, but we need this. We need this to make sure that we're finding the right applicants, and we gave them a runway time to prepare for this. So members, we put it in the bill. This does not go into effect until 2020, so that way they can make sure that their applications comply with the law. And when we're talking, we can sit down, we can come down here and try to paint the most awful, heinous picture that we can by talking about multiple murders or multiple assaults. Members, if you have multiple murders, you're more than likely not out. I'm just saying. So let's get beyond the far-fetching, far-reaching stories, and let's really try to give people an opportunity to get back to work, an opportunity to really meet up to their responsibilities and their obligations. I ask for a no vote on this cap.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Baisley, Cutter, Exum, Gray, McLaughlin. Please close the machine. With 29 aye votes, 35 no votes, and 1 vacant, the amendment fails. There is one more. Mr. Randall, please read the title of the, please read the Representative Baisley, amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Baisley moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole diversity action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Baisley amendment L008, House Bill 1025 shall amendment passed. The House Bill 1025 is amendment passed.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, did a little bit of research on this. This amendment removes the exception for the state, local government, quasi-government, and political subdivisions. In other words, what this bill will do will make the restrictions on advertising those positions open, but it exempts the state. So in conversation earlier, as you all heard here at this well with the sponsors, that there is a separate requirement in statute for the state, and therefore there was concern for conflict. There is no conflict. What this would require, the bill requires that there be no restrictions, on the advertisements for positions. There is no such verbiage in Article 5 of the statute on the public employment requirements, eligibility, and so on. So it just discusses all the eligibility. It does not, however, address anything when it comes to advertising positions with respect to criminal backgrounds on advertisements. So just on its face, removing a requirement will not put in place a conflict. So it would just simply read that employer means a person that regularly engages the services of individuals to perform services of any nature. It would then remove the exclusion for government. So I think that it makes it fair, frankly, between public and private. and also does not put us in the position of saying, you guys need to do this as private industry, but we're not going to do that ourselves. So there's no conflict, and I would urge an aye vote, a yes vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is the what's good for the goose is good for the gander amendment again. We already do this as a state. As a state, we already banned the box. So now you're actually trying to apply a different standard, a standard that's for private industry to public industry. And the public industry standard is actually stronger than the private industry standard. We're saying that you can do a background check or ask about criminal information at any point during the application process, just not on the initial application. When it comes to the state, we have far stronger standards around that. So if we applied this, we're actually weakening the state's laws. This is not what's good for the goose is good for the gander scenario. Sorry, one size doesn't fit all. I ask for no vote.
Is it Representative Baisley?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The bill says that an advertisement for employment position cannot state that someone with criminal history may not apply for the position. That's not addressed in state statute and requirements on the state. It says that the form of application may not include criminal history, or anyone who has criminal history may not apply for that position. That's not addressed in state statute on requirements of the state. Inquiring of the applicant's criminal history on initial application, that is not addressed either. This is additional restrictions, requirements, I should say, on private industry that the state, if we believe in that, the state ought to do that as well. There is no conflict with current statute. So I would urge an aye vote.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And, members, I do believe that our state should lead by example, and I believe that local government units should also lead by example. And I do believe that this issue is adequately addressed in existing law. I happen to have run a bill last year that came out of CCJJ on a broadly bipartisan vote to improve our state statute concerning public employment and public licensing for businesses and such. And that's part of why I think this is necessary or not necessary, and I would urge a no vote out of respect for the work that the sponsors have done. This is 24.5.101.3a. Unless statute prohibits the employment of a person with a specific criminal conviction for a particular position, an agency shall not advertise the position with a statement that the person with a criminal record may not apply for the position, or place on the application a statement that a person with a criminal record may not apply. That is what we're talking about here. That is in existing state law. That is binding on state agencies who are conducting hiring, and that is as it should be. And for that reason, I think we've addressed this, and I would ask for a no vote on the cow.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just wanted to point out another flaw in this amendment. Page 4, line 19. Oh. I asked for a no vote on this cow.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the Representative Baisley motion to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Representative Tipper had to leave. She's excused. Please close the machine. With 22 aye votes, 41 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, the Baisley amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is lost. There are no further amendments at the desk. The question before us is the passage of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Baisley, Beckman, Byrd, Buenteo, Humphrey, Landgraf. Please close the machine. With 48 aye votes, 15 no votes, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, the report of the Committee of the Whole is passed. Announcements and Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Very nice that you're all quiet here. I just want to make sure that you remember that the 2019 Colorado Renewable Energy Reception is tonight, and this has been on your desk. And you get this beautiful pin, and it's very interesting and timely, I might add, because we might be seeing some bills along these lines.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Transportation and local government. Again, the committee that may be hungry if we don't move efficiently. We'll be meeting 5 minutes after the gavel falls on this session. We will be hearing House Bill 1096, Senate Bill 32, and House Bill 1182. See you there. 5 minutes.
5 minutes after the session ends.
Yes. Yes, that's what I mean. So never again before the end of the session.
Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a reminder that you all may have constituents here today. It's Colorado Wednesday at the Capitol. They may have sent in cards to chat with you, but if not, I'm sure they'll try to find you later on. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Your state employees are here.
Thank you, Colorado Winds, for joining us today. Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Judiciary members, this is the same announcement as I made earlier in the morning. I wanted to make it again just because we had that fire drill and some of us were still coming back. Our bills this afternoon in this order are as follows: 1158, 1180, Senate Bill 49, and Senate Bill 71. The order is just a bit different than what's printed on the calendar at the request of one of the sponsors. The 4 bills that are on the calendar, we will hear those same bills today, just a slightly different order. 130, room 112. Thank you.
Representative Longtine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Another reminder for the Health and Insurance Committee, we're hearing Senate Bill 25. Please promptly go to the committee room. I'm giving you 5 minutes when we adjourn from this morning to get started. Thank you.
Representative Kraftharp.
Thank you, Business Affairs and Labor Committee. We will not be meeting today. We'll see you tomorrow at 1:30.
Representative Sirota.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have requested and been approved for a brief absence on the afternoon of March 4th and the morning of March 5th.
Permission granted. Majority Leader, any other announcements and introductions? I have one. Representative Wilson will substitute for Representative Ransom on education today only. Wait, she's not on Ransom. Oh, okay. Okay. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a couple of announcements. One, do we have Slavens in the House? Is that Slavens? All right. All right, let's give everyone a round of applause for Slavens Elementary. Welcome to the House. It's so good to see you guys. One day you'll be down here leading Colorado forward, so thanks so much for being here. 2 members, I've talked with the Minority Leader. I think Friday is going to be a long day, and so just plan on spending quite a bit of time on the floor on Friday. Thirdly, the fire alarm was based off of a steam pipe. It was really cold yesterday morning, and there was like a steam leak, and that's why there was the fire drill. People were blowing off. The steam was blowing off. The pipe was blowing off some steam, however you want to say it. And with that, Madam Speaker, I move to lay over the balance of the second reading calendar until Wednesday, February 27th.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over till tomorrow, Wednesday, February 27th. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will be in recess till later today.